Hello, fellow wanderers. I'm Shay, and welcome back to Adventures as a Wanderer, a series where I share places I have explored, stories I have discovered, and memories I have made along the way. Today, I'm taking you to the Briscoe Western Art Museum, located along the beautiful San Antonio River Walk. Now, I'll admit, before visiting, I thought this would be a museum mostly about cowboys, and while there are definitely plenty of cowboys, ranchers, and stories from the American West, I quickly discovered that the Briscoe is much more than that. It's a place that tells the story of the people, cultures, challenges, and dreams that helped shape Texas and the American West. As soon as I arrived, I was impressed by the building itself. The museum is housed in a historic structure that blends beautifully into downtown San Antonio. Walking through the entrance, it felt like stepping into a place where history and art come together. One of the things I enjoy most about museums is that they allow us to slow down. In our everyday lives, we're often rushing from one thing to the next. Museums encourage us to pause, to look closer, to ask questions, and to imagine what life may have been like for the people who came before us. As I explored the exhibits, I found myself surrounded by stories from another time, stories of ranchers and cowboys who spent their lives working the land, stories of explorers who traveled into unknown territory, stories of native peoples whose cultures existed long before modern Texas was ever imagined, and stories of communities that helped build the state we know today. One of the things that stood out to me was how every artifact seemed to carry a story. A saddle isn't just a saddle. A tool isn't just a tool. A piece of artwork isn't just decoration. Each item represents a real person, a real life, a real moment in history. Sometimes it's easy to think of history as something distant, a collection of dates and events found in textbooks. But museums remind us that history is really about people, people with hopes, people with fears, people trying to build a life, support their families, and navigate a world that was often difficult and unpredictable. As I moved from exhibit to exhibit, I found myself appreciating the amount of effort that goes into preserving these stories. Without places like the Briscoe Museum, many of these artifacts and memories might be lost to time. Instead, they are carefully protected so future generations can continue learning from them. Another thing I enjoyed was seeing how art plays such an important role in telling history. Paintings, sculptures, photographs, and displays help bring the past to life in ways that words alone sometimes cannot. Art allows us to see history through someone else's eyes. It allows us to connect emotionally to people and events that happened long before we were born. Throughout the museum, I found myself stopping often to simply take things in. Sometimes it was an artifact, sometimes it was a piece of artwork, sometimes it was a display that made me think about how different life once was. And yet, despite all the differences between then and now, there were also similarities. People still seek adventure. People still pursue dreams. People still build communities. And people still leave behind stories for future generations. That's one of the reasons I enjoy visiting places like the Briscoe. They're not just preserving history, they're preserving humanity. They're reminding us that every generation contributes something to the story, and someday our stories will become part of history too. As my visit came to an end, I left with a deeper appreciation for the people who helped shape Texas and the American West. The Briscoe Museum isn't just a collection of artifacts, it's a collection of stories. stories of perseverance, stories of creativity, stories of exploration, and stories worth remembering. Thank you for joining me on today's adventure. I hope you enjoyed exploring the Briscoe Western Art Museum with me. If you have suggestions for places you'd like me to wander to next, leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, keep on wandering.